Yeah,
And I'd like to welcome everybody. And as we always do, we're going to, let me go ahead and share my screen. And let's see. I remember the one thing I didn't do last time was share the sound. So we lost a couple of things during that time. So at this time, I'm going to ask everybody to mute your audio. And I can do it for you, but I prefer if you do it yourself. Please use the chat function to let us know where you're logging in from. And this way we can kind of keep track of everybody, and it makes for an interesting map, because I try to produce a map at the end of after each meeting so we can see the spread of where our people are coming in from. Also use the chat function to ask a question during the presentation. The chat room will be monitored and the questions will be answered at the end of the presentation.
It was just those things.
Now, please mute it. Everybody, please mute, because I can still hear some people talking.
That's a. All right, Bill, I don't know how to do that.
Okay.
It's not there.
Yes.
Hey, Bill, you can mute everybody.
Okay. Well, right now we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Uh-oh. Sorry about that.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Unfortunately, as we keep going through this pandemic, we are still in a pandemic. We have no way of knowing within the membership how many people have either crossed the bar, as we say, and whether it or not it was due to the COVID-19, any of its variants, or other natural causes or whatever. But we do a crossing the bar ceremony, and this is to honor all those that have passed, regardless of the circumstances. And hopefully in the not too distant future, we can only do this once or twice a year as opposed to every month. But right now, we'll just proceed with this. Okay, what I would like to, at this particular moment, is to let everybody know that is with us right now that come next month is our annual general membership meeting. It's for members only, and it is where we conduct our elections. There are a slate of candidates will be presented to the membership. Fortunately, I don't have the slate right now. Usually this is where we do it, but we don't have a full slate at this time. But what we are looking at, the slots that we are looking at filling are the president, vice president, assistant vice president, and a communications director. The reason only those slots are up for nomination and election all of the other officers and directors are still within their tenured time. I myself, I'm long past my tenured. I think I believe I'm in my 5th year, what should have been a 3-year term limit. And so as I am actually removing myself from the slate, what we would like to do is anybody that would be interested in any of these positions, please let us know and we will put you on the slate. You can actually email them to me, president@capca.net, and give me your name and the position that you're interested in, and we will put you on the ballot. If you know anybody that you think might be interested in any of those positions, please do the same thing. Either email me their name or get in touch with them and say, hey, this is coming up and it's very important that we have people to fill these slots. This organization has been around since 1989. We've been fortunate in that we've been able to keep going during this pandemic. It's been almost 2 years since we've actually met live. We had contemplated doing next month's meeting live, but it just doesn't seem to be worth doing it and endangering people's health. I myself am fully vaccinated. I've had all 3 shots. I've had my 2 Pfizers and the booster. We don't know how many other people have done that or would be able to do that by next month. We don't want to be in a position to say, oh my God, you know, we did this, then so-and-so got sick and this, that, and the other. So the board has decided that we will conduct our first annual general membership meeting virtually. The ballot will be electronic. During the meeting, you will be presented online on your screen with the ballot, and then it would be up to you as individuals to make a selection of who you would like to see in the individual positions. So we tested it out. It seems to work. It's very simple. It's not complex at all. And it's real time voting so that we can tell you right away who the winner is for the various positions that are available. Again, it's president, vice president, assistant vice president, and communications director. If you want to see what those positions entail, please go to the website and look under the member side, under the bylaws, and it will give you the positions and the duties of each. And I encourage everybody to do so. This is a volunteer membership organization, and I think it has gone very well. Our first virtual meeting, we actually had close to, it was either first or second, we had close to 86, 90 people online from all up and down the East Coast. The numbers have dropped a little bit, but that's understandable. Other things come up, and when you get comfortable doing this, you can say, oh, okay, well, I'll catch it, especially when you know it's being recorded. I'll catch it later. But please, volunteer organizations can only survive when you have people that are willing to step up and keep them going. A lot of organizations like ours are struggling to do just that. But I think we're pretty lucky in that we have good members, and my leadership team has come together and we've been able to keep this thing going. As a matter of fact, let me show you this. We were honored with this. Push this over here so I can see it. It's Chesapeake Area Professional Captains Association as a membership organization, has been voted Best of 2021 Annapolis. This was presented to us by the Annapolis Awards program. We had no idea that this was happening. We just all of a sudden got an email. And so we are very happy that this happened. And again, I'm very proud of our team that came together to do this. Next thing I want to talk about is our ship store. Now, I don't know, those of you that have come into the live meetings in the past, noticed that we had a table that had some goodies from the ship store, which is Queensboro Shirt Company. All of these things are now they are available online. Again, if you go to the website, you will see there's a section, I think it's in the membership kit. Something says ship store. You click on that, it will take you to the Queensboro Shirt Company. These are on-demand items. In other words, they do not stock them. As you order them, they make them. These are high-quality pieces. I'm wearing one right now, if I can. The logo is embroidered. It is not silk screened. And I don't care what product that you get, it's embroidered on each one. They have bags, towels, activewear, dress shirts, fleece items, hats, outerwear, polo shirts, t-shirts, women's apparel, and workwear. I don't know why they separate women's apparel from everything else, but they do. With that, I just wanted to bring that up to everybody. And of course, it was not brought up in past meetings. So back to our regular meeting. At this point, we talked about the importance of the slate, the importance of volunteerism. If you guys can just proceed to get us some names, we have to keep this organization going. Now, what I would like to do at this point is to introduce our leadership, our board, and the directors that we have in attendance tonight. I'm Bill Washington, of course. I'm your president. The vice president, Vicky Saporta. I know we have too many people for the this one screen that I'm looking at, but if you scroll the screen too, she's probably waving her hand and you'll be able to see her. The assistant vice president slot is empty at this point, is vacant. Secretary is Priscilla, who's right next to me. She's waving a hand. Our treasurer is Carl. Bart, wave your hand, Carl. He keeps us really straight. Between these two guys, good stuff going. Continuing education, Zach, are you online with us? I don't.
Yeah,
Oh, there you
Bill.
are. Okay,
Yeah.
I see you. Okay, I have you on my second screen. I don't know how everybody else is configured. Jobs program, Robert Young. There he is. Moonridge's iPad. That's Robert Young. He's continuing ed. I'm sorry, it's jobs program. Membership, Phil. Captain Phil, where are you? Okay, not seeing him right offhand. Webmaster, David Sire.
Hello.
I see him on my second screen, so he's waving his hand as well. And as we go along, those of us that can do it, we have a green screen, so we can do this CAPCA background that you see. That identifies us as officers, directors of the organization. Now I will introduce Yvonne, Captain Yvonne Brandt. She's programs and events director, and I will have her introduce the speaker. Yvonne, take it away.
All right, thank you, Bill. All right, so tonight's speaker, we're very excited to have come here and speak to us, Lou Novak. And Lou Novak is, let's see, he is, went to the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy and got dual deck and engine licenses. After 5 years in the Navy, he studied coastal zone management and worked for the Army Corps of Engineers in Jacksonville, Florida. While in Florida, he started volunteering on Mercy ships. Lou served as a commissioned NOAA Corps officer for another 5 years. He's most recently worked for the Coast Guard as a civilian and has continued to volunteer on his licenses for various organizations. So with that, I will turn it over to you, Lou.
Hey. Oh, well, thank you for having me speak to you all. Is it possible up the first slide?
Sure. What I'm going to do, I just discovered this today, that I can move you guys around so that you'll be in the spotlight when we do this. So
Okay.
let me go ahead and share your screen. And there you are.
All right.
So just let me know when you need me to move things.
I will tell you. Yeah. This is what I hope to talk to you about is volunteer voyaging. You have licenses, and many of you hope to make a living from it. But some of you have satisfactory employment ashore, and you still have a license, but you'd like to get out and maybe do something that's meaningful or rewarding with that license, something that makes the world a better place. And this is how I've chosen to use my licenses. Recently I went and I helped do sea trials with the Amazing Grace in Mazatlan, Mexico. And next slide, please. All right. There are a variety of ways that you can volunteer aboard a vessel. Myself, I started off with Mercy ships. These are very large hospital ships, and the way they operate is that they go to a third world port with volunteers, disciplines, but with a lot of medical volunteers. And they will...
Report Foundation.
Hello? Anyway, for several months, they will remain in port, and there will be buses that will actually go out into the various communities and bring in people who would like to get some medical attention, some in a relatively clean environment, antiseptic environment, which is sometimes very hard to accomplish in portions of the third world. I've served with Mercy ships only in Africa, Ghana and South Africa. But my first Mercy ship experience was actually when they had a smaller vessel that would go to more difficult places to reach in the New World, and that was the Caribbean Mercy. Now, at that time, Mercy ships was part of Youth with a Mission, and so when Mercy ships and split off from Youth with a Mission, I continued to volunteer with Youth with a Mission ships. And so a lot of these smaller vessels had for a period of time gone to the South Pacific and would try to reach the more isolated communities on these islands around the South Pacific. And that I have been doing for a while. It was a great deal of fun. Vine Trust is an organization that belongs to the Church of Scotland. And what they do is they take they make small medical service vessels, and they will bring it to the community that is in that needs some modern medical facilities, and then they will train locals to crew the ship, but all the while making sure that volunteer medical personnel rotate through. The Vine Trust vessel that I worked with was the Jubilee Trust, or Jubilee Hope, and I was part of the effort to bring her around Africa from Scotland, but bring her around Africa. And then when the vessel, the Jubilee Hope, got to Kenya, Mombasa, she was cut into two parts, superstructure and hull, and put on truck beds and trucked all the way up to Lake Victoria, where she was refastened. And Lake Victoria is an inland sea, is basically like one of our Great Lakes. And there are island communities that had really no opportunity to be reached by modern medicine. And that's where she serves now. That was a pretty exciting mission. Friendships is out of Louisiana, and I tried to volunteer with them. Now, whenever I volunteer, I usually identify myself as a Coast Guard employee, just in case there's anything they may not want me to be around. Although, I don't think I would I would do anything improper, but I just want them to understand that I work for the Coast Guard. And oftentimes people receive that well, but sometimes people don't want you to. I don't think Friendships never called me back because they didn't want me to. I think that I didn't pass muster with their doctrinal requirements. See, all these first group of vessels and organizations are faith-based organizations. And although I've never really run into much screening with respect to your religious affiliation, as long as you behave as you would in any professional environment aboard, there usually isn't any problem. But sometimes an organization will have some stricter doctrinal requirements, and they may ask you about what your beliefs are about a certain thing. And if they don't want you, they don't want you, and that's fine. I'm volunteering my time. So another organization that one may volunteer with is the Refugee Rescue and SOS Méditerranée. These try to get refugees who are trying to cross the water to a place that is safer, or maybe offers more opportunity for survival. And I have seen these when I was volunteering aboard a YWAM ship in the Mediterranean. However, when I have contacted these in order to help, and knowing that I work for the U.S. Coast Guard, I think that they were reluctant to take advantage of my volunteering because they those organizations do run afoul of some Coast Guards, and in particular, the Italian Coast Guard. So I think that, I just wasn't a very good candidate for what they did, but I think the work is noble. I wouldn't, and in fact, Doctors Without Borders often works with those organizations. Now, another type of way to volunteer is aboard museum vessels. And myself, I've volunteered aboard the John W. Brown, SSW John W. Brown, which is a World War II Liberty ship with a pretty interesting history if you ever go visit her. But they do need licensed personnel. Now, if you're concerned that maybe your license may not be sufficient to be of value to the John Brown, I've known a number of people who have volunteered aboard at a lower rating and have improved their license by putting enough days aboard and doing enough voyages. So I wouldn't let yourself be discouraged by that. I've also volunteered Tall Ship Half Moon and the Tall Ship Rattlesnake. Those are museum ships. Now the Rattlesnake is no more, but interesting thing about the Tall Ship Half Moon, she has been returned to the Netherlands because she was a Dutch vessel, although Henry Hudson did, he was the expedition leader aboard her, well, until they decided against him. But anyway, what is particularly interesting with Half Moon is when I volunteered aboard her, she was being used for a movie. So I got to be part of a movie called The Devil You Know. I was put on some dirt makeup and wore shabby clothes and didn't have a speaking role or anything, but it was fun. Now, Greenpeace and Sea Shepherds, they have an environmental mission. I haven't had much interaction with Greenpeace. I have with Sea Shepherds. Now, when I was for the Army Corps of Engineers, we were dredging away.
Can I interrupt you for a minute, Lou? We're
Yes.
still getting feedback and noise from other participants. If you can mute your mics, please. I'd like to ask you to mute your mics. If I mute everybody right now, I'm going to wind up muting Lou also, and I don't want to do that.
Well, you could quickly unmute him after you mute everybody.
Okay, let me see what I can do here because it's, again, this is all being recorded. Hang on. Okay, well, the background seems to be stopped. So let's go on and continue.
All right. In that period, someone asked what happened to the Tall Ship Rattlesnake. Well, try as we might to keep her sound. She just was so old and she just required so much work to keep her up that eventually we had to tow her for dismantling. It's not a very exciting end. Now, regarding the Sea Shepherds, I was with the Corps of Engineers. I was on a dredge. We were dredging a waterway, one of the ports off of Florida, on the Atlantic coast of Florida. And there were complaints about turbidity, that's suspended solids in the water, cloudiness, water clarity. And so we knew we were within limits for the dredging for the permit, but Sea Shepherds responded to someone in the public asking for it. So they would they would follow us as we were dredging, testing the turbidity, but they determined, that we were telling the truth. So I was glad for that. When we were in port, I went over and I had a conversation with the engineer from the vessel, and he said that he had, at that time, he was about 6 weeks behind in getting paid, and he was about fed up with it. He was going to leave, so he was clearly not a volunteer. Other than that, one may volunteer with the Sea Scouts. I know that a number of the people who are present, including Yvonne, help with the Sea Scouts. You can use your license, and you can be a great benefit on long cruise, sailing with our Sea Scouts and sharing your knowledge and your enthusiasm for the water. The Alexandria Seaport Foundation is another place where I have volunteered. I don't do so much teaching of sailing as sometimes I will teach rowing, which seems like it may not be that demanding, but we at the Alexandria Seaport Foundation work with some at-risk youth, and being able to put aside some of your independence and to be able to pull all together at once on a vessel, on a boat, that is an important skill. Putting aside yourself for a bit in order for the whole boat to move in the right direction, and then learning how to coxswain or be able to give direction without, physically threatening someone. That's also an important skill. Just these are just basic but professional skills. So that's what happens at the Alexandria Seaport Foundation. And then some of you also help with the Coast Guard Auxiliary. These are all local volunteer organizations where I recommend volunteering. If you're not going to help, volunteer with CAPCA, because I know that they need their volunteers as well. Next slide. All right, YWAM ships is where I volunteered most. These are usually have a medical service mission, and they also perform dental. You could see some of the native outriggers that sometimes will come out to the vessel if we're at anchor in order to either bring us a patient or to bring us something, or to take something away. Sometimes we'll have good water. I know one time in Vanuatu, they were experiencing a drought, and we had a water maker, and we were able to give water to the locals. In addition, we had brought some cisterns to help them gather rainwater because the wells were getting fouled from the drought. A lot of these Pacific islands are coral islands, and so the aquifer is in limestone, and you'll have a freshwater aquifer laying on top. It's called a freshwater lens, and it lays on top of the saltwater underneath the denser saltwater. But when there's a drought, the freshwater lens gets very thin, and it concentrates waterborne illnesses, and people start getting sick. So it's important for us to provide another way for them to gather water, drinking water. So cisterns is one of those things. All right, next slide. Okay, so my most recent trip was to Mazatlan, Mexico, and we were doing sea trials with the Amazing Grace. And you can see on top a picture of the vessel, most of her. She's about 100 feet long and 150 gross tons. She has, she can sleep 28. And standing next to me is John O'Brien. He's one of the physician's assistants who Although he's very handy aboard a vessel, he intends to help provide medical care to in the Sea of Cortez aboard the Amazing Grace. And we had a lot of great sunrises and sunsets aboard the Amazing Grace. And there's some other angles, some other pictures. Next slide, please. While in the shipyard, I was staying in the room on the right at the YWAM base. And on the left was the captain's cabin. I really didn't need to stay in that because we were in the yard most of the, well, every night we were in the yard. So I didn't need to stay in there. But it was very nice accommodations. So I was well taken care of. Next slide. We had interesting neighbors in the yard. The Sea Shepherds were there. And now I had shown some interest in volunteering with Sea Shepherds. I was more interested in the what was happening with the Arctic toothfish, which is in the Southern Ocean. I think that's a fishery that is, close to collapsing, and that definitely needs some attention. But but what the Sea Shepherds did talk to me about was what was happening in the Sea of Cortez. If I understand the situation correctly, there is a fish called the Tatoba, and it has a bladder that is found to be very valuable in Chinese medicine. So there's a very high price for the bladder of the Tatoba, and they are netted. In the netting, there is a small pygmy dolphin called a vaquita. It's a adorable little porpoise, dolphin type creature, cetacean, and just a little thing. And they get caught in the net. And if I understand correctly, there's less than 200 of them left. And so the Sea Shepherds, they try to stop the placement of nets for the Tatoba in order to save the vaquita. Now, the scuttlebutt was that recently, these fishermen, they are able to purchase their fishing boats, but by taking loans from the cartel. So they are absolutely up against the wall when it comes to paying off for their boat. So the Sea Shepherds there are seen to be keeping them from that. And so I guess it gets pretty heated in the confrontations between the Sea Shepherds and the Tatoba fishermen. And so I guess recently there had been it had escalated to gunplay, and one of the fishermen had been shot. So that was unfortunate. Now, I didn't see this for sure. I did, passing by the vessel, try to talk with some of the Sea Shepherds, but they just weren't around on deck. So I don't know them anymore. So the next slide, please. Okay, we had to do a lot of training before getting underway, including fire and abandoned ship drills. We had equipment that it was important for some people to learn how to don and how to put on, how to make sure they were going to get air, how to deploy hoses, how to attack fires. So these were all things that we were doing prior to even starting the sea trials. And I'm glad that we did that. I think these are skills that'll carry on for when they do outreach in the Sea of Cortez. Next slide. There are certain areas that needed attention before sea trials. We had to try to get all the steering working and all the different engine controls. We had to make sure that everything was working in the engine room. We had to learn about how to open up the sea chest and which direction the cooling water should go, which heat exchangers needed the most attention. And we learned more during sea trials. Next slide. Oh, wait a minute. Before you, can we go back over to the lower right? We had, we had the life rafts, and one of the things that they needed was a manual quick release. While we had the hydrostatic release, which is important, we had to have a manual quick release, which is an important thing, by SOLAS standards. Next slide, please. Also, if you were to go to the upper right side of the chart, and then you were to go over about 3/4 of an inch, that off the chart, that's where the other way off the chart, that's where the shipyard was. So we did not have any navigational charts. There was nothing on the electronic charts regarding the available depths. There was just, and no one was prepared to give me any local knowledge about the waters around the shipyard and to do our trials. So what we ended up doing is we took out the launch and we had to sound it ourselves, sound out the area. It recorded the depths, recorded the time, recorded the state of the tide at the time. And so I found a path in order to get it onto the chart and make our way out to the area. Now, if you were to go to about the middle of the chart, and there's a circle there in the light blue, yeah, that's it. That is where we had to do our adjustment of the compass, and we also did a few of our circles, a few of our turning circles to starboard at least. We weren't able to do our turns to port. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. All right, the upper left is where we did compass adjustment, and to the right of that, you see some of our turning circles. And if you were to go straight down from the turning circles, we were doing our speed runs. 1 engine, 2 engines, different RPMs. We were determining what sort of speed we would make, and we were recording that. And then if you were to go to the left of that, we did a quick little run into Mazatlan, or near Mazatlan, in order to show the vessel off to the members of the base, because this ship had been in the yard for a little over 4 years, and there was excitement about her being able to depart the yard. So we showed off the vessel at that point. Next slide. We also had to test out the anchors, and it was a pretty beautiful area where we were testing out the anchors, and they held. It was, I don't know, it's one of the drills that you hope you never find out that your anchor doesn't hold, or a link parts or something, but that didn't happen. So next slide. Some of the things that we discovered at the upper left, we found that this thermal paint on our exhaust stacks wasn't too thermal. It was flaking off after a few hours of use. To the right of that, we have one of the stern tubes. While in port, for over 4 years, we had the packing in the stern tube was sufficient to keep a drip or two a minute. but when we started getting underway, it was coming out a lot more vigorously. And so we needed to put more packing into the stern tube. Not a big thing. Now in the lower two photos are of the steering flat, where we did have some more serious problems, where the turns to port would shear the bolt heads off of the apparatus, and then we would jam and not be able to get more than 22 degrees left rudder. And this happened a couple times where we sheared off the bolt heads. And you can see some of the parts down in the bottom in the lower right, in the disassembly and stuff. Anyway, this did have to be addressed, and we'll have another picture later to show what part of the problem was. So the next slide, please. Oh, yeah, I did in the evenings or when they were doing repairs, I was able to do other stuff besides work. There was a cliff divers in Mazatlan, and to the right you can see the cliff diver in mid-flight. There also there were petroglyphs, numerous petroglyphs about an hour north of Mazatlan. We went to go see, and there's a statue of leaping dolphins, which I thought was a beautiful statue, and I managed to catch it near sunset. So, next page, next slide. Oh, and after I left, not long after I left, Cyclone Pamela was coming towards Mazatlan, and I was speaking with the crew, and they I gave what advice I could. I said, double up your lines and to press up your tanks and to lower your anchors. And they did that. However, the surge is a surge, and you can see in the lower right, what they were seeing during the surge on the inside, and then upper left, you can see the result afterwards, the little bit of damage to the side. Next slide. Okay. Do we have another slide? Okay. I thought I sent you a version where I had another slide in there, but it just showed that one of the issues with the Amazing Grace is that she had 20 tons of concrete put in her bow to give her the trim that they wanted her to have in the shipyard. But it was too much weight in the bow. And it actually brought the rudder about 6 to 8 inches out of the water, the top part of the rudder. And the water line was not following the boot top whatsoever. And you could tell in the steering that she had a heavy bow. She had a lot of swing in her bow. So one of the things that we'll need to change with the Amazing Grace is they do have some mobile ballast, and they need to bring that from forward to back aft in the steering flat probably in order to give her a more even trim. Anyway, do we have any questions about volunteer voyaging, or in particular what happened with the Amazing Grace? I know that the people, the crew of the Amazing Grace, they would love to have volunteer captains from CAPCA to come help them with their outreaches in the Sea of Cortez. And it is a beautiful body of water, lots of interesting wildlife. And in fact, John Steinbeck actually wrote about his voyage on the Sea of Cortez, if you're curious about what sort of things that you could see. All
And
right.
Lou, it looks like there's a question from Erin. She was curious, who pays for travel to and from the location?
Oh, that's a very good question. I pay for the travel to and from where they need me. Now, what I have done in the past is I put together a letter of my expenses, and I give it to I give it to the organization that I volunteered with. Let's say it was YWAM Medical Ships, and I'll say, could I get this letter detailing my volunteer work and the expenses in order to perform it, and the dates on your letterhead, and they will generate a letter on their letterhead detailing the expenses and the dates, and then when I put that in with my taxes, and I write off those expenses basically. So that's what I do. But I am responsible for the pay to go to and from.
All right. Looks like you have another question here. What is your most memorable event during a voyage, from Jen?
Oh, I would say it was when I was in Vanuatu, where there just weren't very many charts available. It just was relatively uncharted. And by night, I was navigating because there was clouds. It wasn't really many stars in the sky, but I would use the glow from the volcano on Ambrin. I would keep that to my starboard, and then further down the chain, or further up the chain, when we were going between a very narrow channel between Wallow and Rano, we actually had islanders in outrigger canoes lead us through between the coral heads, lead the ship into this safe bay between the islands. And we put that on the electronic chart. So when we went back out, we went back exactly over our track that we went in. So we didn't hit anything. And what was especially memorable about that event was when we were going out, we had to leave at night because of the tides. And although most of the islanders were living in a very primitive lifestyle, there was actually a handful of them that actually had smartphones. You could collect copra and sell it for money and get money. If you did that for a long time, you could buy a cell phone. It was actually a tower on the island. But as we were leaving, they had climbed up the trees, and they had started strobing their lights from their phones. So we were like rock stars when we left. So that was a pretty neat experience. I mean, we did luau and stuff like that with them, but that was really, we knew how much sacrifice it took for them to shine lights at night, for us.
Right. Yeah, that sounds amazing. And then she asked, how far in advance do these trips get, or voyages are planned, or do you look up on their website, or how do you find them? Your trips.
Well, I guess over the years, I'm friends with a number of the captains, and so I just keep in contact with them, and I know. But yes, they do post voyage plans, usually about 3 months in advance.
Okay.
Sometimes they can post a whole year's worth of voyage plans.
Okay. Cheryl is asking, have you or perhaps any other CAPCA members volunteered for Chesapeake Bay Foundation and their vessels?
I have not. I've seen it, but I haven't. I will say that When I was a NOAA Corps officer, we did similar types of studies to the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, but but that was not voluntary.
Right. Okay. And then Zachary's curious about, of all the organizations covered, which gave you the most satisfaction? Which would you recommend for those getting started as well?
Oh. The most satisfaction I would say is YWAM medical ships. Just to see people, they get, maybe they're able to walk again, or maybe, well, and this is with Mercy ships. I was able to, with, and I guess they call it sponsor. Sometimes these children who are getting operated on had never been away from their family, and they just need someone to come and read to them, or sing with them, or pray with them, or something like that. And I would do that after my engineering watch. And well, it's kind of interesting. Whenever we brought the Mercy ship into a European port, what visitors want to see is usually the bridge, because that's where the decisions are made. But in Africa, the real interest lay in the engine room, because that's where the magic is. And so we often didn't give tours of the engine room, because there could be some hazards, and we don't want anyone hurt, and also you can do some serious damage if you do something improper. However, I was an engineer. I had my own watch, and so one of the boys that I was visiting, just before his discharge, I gave him a tour of the engine room, and I had set it up so that he could turn some valves and see, things move and turn and blow. And anyway, he was in heaven. And so then I escorted him from the ship, and he was able to join his family. And that was a pretty rewarding experience. Those are the sorts of things that I would recommend. If you were just starting out, I would say a good place to start would be something like the John Brown, where there are plenty of people to teach you from the deck plates up exactly how to use a winch or a windlass, and then you would learn how to handle the helm. So that's, if you were beginning, that's what I'd recommend if you're going to volunteer your time.
Okay, so the museum ships is the starting place.
Yeah, that would be a good starting place. But if you are the type of person that wants to do a gap year, you want to throw yourself whole hog into it at the end of high school, I would recommend going with YWAM and getting on one of their ships. They do have something called the School of Navigation and Seamanship. It's in Kona, Hawaii. I think it's about 90 days, the school, and they do teach you about their vessels, and then you could conceivably, I know a few of those I've taught at that school, where they actually go to sea, and on these vessels that are doing things around the islands of the South Pacific. So if you've got that kind of time, a gap year or something like that, I would recommend doing that.
All right, that sounds great. I was curious about when you did the soundings. Did you have another vessel you used to go out and do the soundings, and then you went back and did the?
We just used a rib, a tender that we had from the Amazing Grace.
Mm-hmm. Just go. And then I guess a GPS, and you could document where the depths were.
I did it by eye. Because we didn't use a handheld GPS, but I was noting different, I was doing mental bearings off of different features. There's mountains, lighthouses, big buildings of odd shapes.
Oh, I see. Wow. Good memory. All right. Well, I think we've come to the end of our questions. That was excellent, Lou. So exciting. Really feel inspired to try out one of these volunteer
Okay.
organizations. Yeah.
Oh, and now I do see a question about electricity on some of these vessels from,
Ooh, I missed that one. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I will say ordinarily, it is alternating current. However, the Anastasis was 28 volt DC for part of it, and those operated the fans. That was before they had air conditioning aboard the Anastasis, and in Africa, air conditioning was really, really beneficial. But we had 28 volt fans in our staterooms, and also on the John Brown we have DC and we have AC. So, and generally, I would say electricity was reliable on all the vessels. Yeah, I mean, like all ships, every once in a while you lose power. But for the most part, that wasn't a problem. And Bill says that he volunteered on the Half Moon, and I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, I met them in Verplanck, New York, and we
Yeah.
had about a dozen middle school students on board with their teachers and chaperones, and we sailed up to Albany
Yeah.
and stopping at night. I think it took 9 days, something like that.
Wow.
They did all the work. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
We taught them what
Oh.
to do, and they did all the work.
And what time of year was that?
It had to be spring or summer,
Yes.
because going
Because-
into Albany, have you taken it? Did you remember taking it into Albany?
No, we went from Verplanck all the way to Salem, Massachusetts.
Okay, so you went the other way.
The Cape Cod Canal. Yeah.
Okay, well, going into Albany, there's a water plant of some sort where
Yeah.
they fire water cannons out into the into the river, and as we were approached, we got inundated with all the water from this plant. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And as you remember, I'm sure there was one hit
Yeah.
on board, and we had all these kids, and
Uh,
so we had to pray that nobody clogged anything.
yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah, but that was a lot of fun.
It was, we were sailing in the snow, and it was wintertime, and it was a very, very cold walk in the middle of the night to try to
Yeah.
go to bed.
I can imagine.
All right. And I think that's it for questions.
All
Well,
right.
Okay.
thank you so much for this.
Yeah. Thank
And
you.
if-
Thank you. It was a fabulous presentation. And
If-
no, well, I was just going to say that we would like to give you a CAPCA mug, but you've already got one. So we were thinking a better gift would be a $50 donation to a charity of your choice. So I guess give that a think and let us know, and we will, CAPCA will donate to your favorite charity.
All right. Well, right now, the Alexandria Seaport Foundation is having a drive, and I think that I wouldn't mind if it went to them.
All
All
right.
right.
Thing.
Yeah, well, Carl will take care of that.
Okay. And also, if anybody has any questions, I don't mind if I guess they can. Is there a way they can contact me through CAPCA, or should I leave my email address for them to contact me with any questions, or how to volunteer with any of these organizations?
Well, we can, I'm gonna do a summary of the presentation, and I can put your email on there. And
Okay.
then I think you could put your email in the chat right now.
Okay.
And I don't know, are there any other ideas on how to do that, Bill and Priscilla?
No, I mean, if you have the summary, if you're going to do the summary and have it on the web, on the site, and have his email there, that should be sufficient.
Okay.
Oh, it went to Cheryl. I gotta go send it to everybody.
Which email did you want to use, Lou?
My personal. I wouldn't. Yeah. So if
There
you
you go.
have any questions, or you want to know how to get involved with any of these organizations, I'll try to answer the best I can.
All right.
All
We
right.
will pass that information on. All right, thank you so much. And I'll turn it back over to you, Bill.
Okay, thank you, Yvonne. Thank you, Lou. Very great presentation, very informative, very enjoyable. I hope the recording comes out okay. I was playing around with it a little bit, but I think it'll turn out nicely. I try to have the recordings up within a week of the presentation, so it'll be on the CAPCA YouTube channel, and so yeah, so we'll do that.
And the link for the recordings is on both the homepage of the public side of the website and on the members homepage. There'll be a link it's permanent.
Yeah. So with that being said, so I always go to this dog and pony show with the mug, but you already have one, so so I won't do that. But again, a couple of things just to reiterate. Please, please, please show up next month for the our annual general membership meeting to vote for the new leadership for the board. And everybody be safe out there. And with that, I think that Priscilla, any other board members, Vicky, you all have anything else to say before we close out? Priscilla?
The main thing is that it's really important to be present for the general meeting. We need a quorum, and to encourage you to come. Bill,
I
finish
forgot.
my sentence.
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah,
We are going to have raffles. Okay, but you must be present to win.
money,
So-
money, money, money.
Money, 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 money. So you must be present to win. I'm not going to tell you how much, but the only way you're going to find out is to be present and to vote. And that's going to be the big thing. You got to be present and you have to vote, and then you will be eligible for the raffles. What are we doing? About 4, something like that, I think. And
3.
2,
3.
3. Okay, 3 raffles during the course of the
Yeah, and they're not just chicken feed either.
no.
They're good.
So yeah, I'm sorry, I completely forgot about that.
I mean,
Okay.
bribery is important.
Yeah. Okay, anybody else on the board, directors, anybody else?
I want to thank the club for this beautiful mug. This is Sam Linus. Thank you. And the lapel pin.
Oh, you're welcome. So, okay,
Wearing mine. Right.
You're still recording, Bill.
yeah, no.
Oh, okay, good, good.
Yeah, I'm still recording. So I was going to say with that, I'm going to end the meeting. Everybody, please be safe, and we will see you next month.
Thank you, Bill.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Lou.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
All right.